All right, so what happens when an idea, a simple thought, becomes deadly? That's the question we're tackling today as we dive into one of the most intense psychological novels ever written, Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. We're going to unpack the big ideas here, philosophy, guilt, and redemption, and see why this book is still so powerful. This quote right here, this is basically the key that unlocks the whole book. Dostoevsky himself said it. Ideas in the head are harmless. Ideas in the blood are monstrous. Think about that for a second. It's a bone-chilling warning, right? It's about that terrifying leap an idea can take from just a thought in your mind to something real, something violent. And that's the core conflict we're going to get into. So, that leads us right to the heart of the novel. What happens when a philosophical theory, a high-minded idea, becomes a justification for murder? I mean, our main guy, Raskolnikov, he's this broke, starving student. He murders a pawnbroker and her sister with an axe. But here's the thing. This is no mystery novel. We know who did it right away. The real mystery, the one that grips you, is why? Why did he do it? And what happens to a person's soul after something like that? Okay, so to get that why, we've got to look at the idea itself, the intellectual poison that starts it all. It kicks off with Raskolnikov's so-called Superman theory. So here's the deal with this theory. Raskolnikov basically splits the world into two kinds of people, the ordinary and the extraordinary. He's looking at guys like Napoleon, and he thinks these exceptional people have a right, an inner right, to break the rules, to step over boundaries, even, over blood if it's for some greater good. And for him, this whole thing is a test. He is desperate to prove to himself that he's one of the extraordinary ones. Now, it's not like he just cooked this up out of nowhere. Dostoevsky was really taking aim at some radical philosophies that were, floating in the air in Russia back then. Ideas like nihilism, which is basically throwing out all moral rules, and utilitarianism, which, if you twist it, can be used to justify doing terrible things for a supposed greater good. Dostoevsky thought these ideas were just incredibly dangerous, and this whole novel is basically his giant, powerful argument against them. And this is where we see the theory just catastrophically fail. I mean, in his head, it's all so clean, so mathematical. He thinks, okay, I'll kill one useless slouse of a pawnbroker and use her money for 1,000 good deeds. Simple, right? But the reality? Oh man, the reality is a bloody, chaotic, horrific mess. This isn't some neat philosophical experiment. It's a savage, frenzied axe murder. And then he ends up killing her innocent sister who just happens to walk in. The whole theory just shatters into a million pieces the second it hits the real world. Right, so this brings us to a really crucial point. The real punishment in this book, it isn't a jail cell, no way. It's the prison that Raskolnikov builds for himself, right inside his own mind. The second that axe falls, his torment begins. And this, my friends, is where you really see Dostoevsky's genius as a psychologist just shine. And get this, his inner conflict is literally baked into his name. The name Raskolnikov comes from the Russian word raskol, which means schism or split. And that's exactly what he is. He's a man completely split in two. You've got his arrogant intellect on one side telling him, hey, the murder was justified, it was for the greater good. But on the other side, his heart, his conscience, it's just screaming at him. He's literally a soul at war with itself. And this internal war just absolutely tears him apart. It shows up in three main ways. First, he has this horrible realization that he's not Napoleon. Not at all. He can't handle the weight of what he's done. He's just a trembling creature, as the book says. Then there's the total isolation. The guilt is like a wall cutting him off from everyone, even his own family. He is profoundly, terrifyingly alone. And finally, his soul sickness literally makes him physically sick. He's got these fevers, he's delirious. It's like his body is trying to expel the crime just as much as his mind is. So he's trapped in this personal hell, and he absolutely cannot get himself out. He needs a guide. And that's where Sonia Marmeladova comes in. She's one of the most incredible characters in all of literature, and she's the one who shows him the only possible path back to humanity. And this comparison between them is so important. See, they're both transgressors, right? They've both crossed a major moral line, but why they did it couldn't be more different. His crime was all about pride, about his ego. It was an act against other people. Her transgression, it was an act of total sacrifice. She became a prostitute to save her family from starving. She is his complete spiritual opposite. She represents faith and a kind of love that asks for nothing in return.
So Sonia, she lays out the only way forward for him, and it's got nothing to do with escaping prison. It's a spiritual journey. Step 1, he has to confess publicly. He has to tell the people what he did. Step 2, he has to accept his suffering. He needs to, as she says, kiss the earth that he's stained with blood and willingly pay for his sin. And it's only after that, way later in a prison camp in Siberia, that step 3 can even begin, his spiritual rebirth, his resurrection.
All right, so let's pull all these threads together now. We've got the theory, the guilt, and the path to redemption. And what we're left with is Dostoevsky's ultimate, powerful, and truly timeless message. When you really boil it down, this entire novel is a massive battle between two totally opposite worldviews. On one side, you have Raskolnikov's cold, logical nihilism, this idea that if there's no God, then everything is permitted. And on the other side, you have Sonia's worldview. It's a Christian worldview, where meaning isn't found in logic, but in faith, in compassion, and in sacrificial love. And that leaves us with Dostoevsky's final, haunting question. And it's not just for Raskolnikov. It's for every single one of us. What he's warning us is that ideas aren't just harmless games we play in our minds. They have real-world consequences. So, the question he leaves us chewing on is this. In a world that's just swimming with ideas, which ones are you going to let into your blood?